Yes, guys, I'm Si. Welcome to Cardiff City World. It's Monday night, and as there's no Cardiff City phone in at the moment, we got a little special show. It's myself, Si from Ace Podcast Nation, host Cardiff City World, whatever you want to say, man. And we're going to talk Cardiff City finances. I am joined by one half of the Flower Hour. The other half just flat out refused to do tonight's show. He said it don't pay him enough. And literally said if he don't up his pay, he's not going to come on. So, well, that's what there's a reason why we call him the superstar. Superstar Matthew Angel is with me. Delighted to be as always. How are you, my friend? You good?
Yeah, all good, buddy. All good. It's bonkers to think that event was only on Friday. It seems as if it was weeks ago now. It's just bonkers.
Well, it flies by, mate. Just on how quickly they come around. I felt like I said about 20 million times then. How many times or how quickly it comes from an answer there. And fuck's sake, that's gonna bug me now. Basically, what I'm getting at is they come around really quickly, and then I don't know when they've done, I just have this massive adrenaline dump or something, and I feel awful for 48 hours afterwards, and I'm all over the place, as you can probably tell by the opening 2 minutes. So this could be fun, as we've got to talk about something which is quite complex. But look, there's been some stuff on social media basically over the last couple of days about Cardiff City's finances. I'm not going to pretend to be a financial expert. What I can say is that in the next 2 weeks or so, I'm going to have at least one financial expert on the channel, if not two, hopefully, fingers crossed. So what we will do is we'll discuss kind of what's been out there over the last couple of days. But first and foremost, mate, what I wanted to say is the report, which, look, if you're getting your news off a message board, I think just like if you're getting it off a podcast or a YouTube channel, by the way, you've got to accept that, all right, there's always people who know people and through a friend of a friend, or they got certain contacts. I get that. But I don't think it's always the best source for news. However, this particular thread is also based on an official document. So it's not just some guy going, I'm in the know and I've got this, etc.
Yeah.
It's based off an official document and it's got highlighted passages and stuff. However, before I throw it over to you, mate, and we kind of discuss it and we go through it, I do want to say the last time that Mehmet Dalman came on Ace Podcast Nation, he said all of this and he went into a bit of detail about it. But because people have certain opinions of him, rightly or wrongly, it's not for me to say. As I said yesterday, in fact, I'm not going to talk about something because it might mean that I don't get that interview in the future. If I don't get that interview again in the future, then whatever. I don't think that would be the case because he's never asked me to not ask about anything. He's never said before or afterwards, I didn't like that you said this or you asked this or whatever. And he's also, the first time we had him on with Andy, we offered to screen the questions if he didn't want to talk about certain things because we were trying to be, as professional as possible, blah, blah, blah. And he said, no, you ask anything which the fans want to ask. So I think he deserves credit for that. I said that at the time. It's not his fault or my fault if people then after the shows got their knickers in a twist because certain things didn't get talked about. And it's it was a live show for 1.5, 2 hours where you had the opportunity to ask anything. So if you chose not to ask it, then that's not really anyone's fault but yours. But anyway, that's got a bit sidetracked. So my point being is during the last time he was on, he said Vincent Tan is pumping in, and I think he said it on the show before during COVID that Vincent Tan was keeping, he's keeping the club afloat on a monthly basis. The club is not self-sufficient, not even near to being self-sufficient. And the fact is, So if you go on this document, mate. No, let me actually, before we go into the document, I want to ask you, as a viewer, like what you made of Mehmet Dalman. I think he's been on 3 times, 4 times, whatever it may be.
He's he's always been quite open and honest with the things, hasn't he? And the conversations you had with him and the questions. Like you said, he doesn't dodge questions. I think it's been well publicized. Like, again, I'm not one to look at the finances and stuff, really. If I'm completely honest with you, I wouldn't have a Scooby-Doo. But what I have seen and what I have read is that he's pumping, I've heard rumours, is like between 1 and 3 million every month just to keep the club above water type of thing. So, I don't know how true that is. And, it's difficult. But if he is, fair play to him. And, a lot of people, I'm not saying I'm a top supporter of Tan. But obviously, there's good things that have happened since he's been here, and there's been bad things that have happened since he's been here. So, I just, as Cardiff fans and as passionate as we are, I don't think we'd ever be happy, no matter who was here. If I'm honest.
Well, mate, I think like the other thing with Vincent Tan is, and I've been very open about this from day one, is that my relationship with the football club as a fan was massively damaged because of the rebrand. At one point, I was never going to go back. That's kind of eased a little bit, but I won't buy a season ticket again until he's gone. Like, it's tricky, because people will call you a hypocrite and a part-time fan and all this sort of shit. But like, fact is, like, supported the club since I was little. I'd used to have a season ticket. It is where it is. Yeah. What he did damaged the football club. But two things can be right, or two things can be correct. And the fact is, as much as I dislike what he's done to Cardiff City Football Club, which I absolutely do, and I'm not a fan of him. I don't like the way he's treated fans. I don't like the way the football club treats the fans currently. We're very much treated as customers. There was a gentleman who was assaulted recently around the outskirts of the stadium. The club invited him to, I believe, come for a game afterwards with his family, only to then withdraw the offer after they'd had some sort of meeting with certain people. And I thought that was absolutely awful, because it was like an old guy, not like a 20-year-old who was causing problems. It was just an old guy who got, from at least what I know, kind of got jumped and snidely attacked, like, and he was very, very poor. But and like, look, Reece says he says, like, he answers like a politician, and I don't disagree with that whatsoever. And I think that's the reason why he never asked for the questions to be screened, is because he's perfectly capable and well versed in how to answer things without doing things, or without saying anything which is going to cause an issue. Like, he's very well versed in PR and stuff like that. I'm not saying that I believe everything he says, and I'm not saying like I don't disagree with some of his decisions. I said, I think about a month ago, when people sort of said, like, we were talking about the structure, and I've been quite vocal about that the club needs a football structure above the manager. But I also said, when that structure is eventually in place, and when Vincent Tan eventually leaves, and people saying, like, Tan and the rest of them can go, and Mehmet Dalman can go, and that, I said that they should keep Mehmet Dalman, not as anything to do with the football side of things, but I would keep him as a commercial side of things, or the business side of things, because he's a very astute businessman. But he wouldn't, for instance, I understand why he's on a transfer committee. I understand why they're all on the transfer committee, the board members, because they obviously have a say in it, and that some of them have more of a say than others. However, there should be other people on that committee who understand the nuances of football, understand the nuances of tactics and transfers and injury records and personalities and all these different things that should go into research and transfers and potential transfers, etc. And there's no one, and that's a big problem. That's a big red flag for me, and it's been for a long time. So just a quick look. 2 key issues regarding them. So they're always silent. They never tell us what's happening. And 2, they don't. Right. So Reece says 2 key issues regarding the board. He says they're always silent. They never tell us what's actually happening. And 2, they don't care that much. They're never at the stadiums. The director's box is always empty. So I would say, again, 2 things can be right simultaneously. I don't really, the director's box, I don't put much kind of value or anything in that, because the way the world is now, you can do everything remotely. Would it be better if you had a couple of board members there every week? Of course it would. Would it be better if the owner was there for most home games? Of course it would. But I don't think it's the be all and end all. The other side of things, they're not communicating. Yeah, 100%. This is one of the biggest issues at the football club in terms of, apart from the debt and the finances and all the rest of it, which we'll discuss in a minute. Like, one of the biggest criticisms you can label at the football club off the field is the communication is just abysmal. I think they've tried to kind of address it with the trust this year. Like, there seems to be more statements coming out through the trust and kind of linked with Mehmet Dalman and stuff like that. So that, I think you've got to maybe give a little bit of credit for that and say, well, at least they seem to be trying to address that. But I'm still waiting for someone to tell me why Steve Morrison was sacked. So, especially when you're hearing rumours that he's Vincent Tan's choice to take over if we need a new manager. Like, well, all right, tell us, 1, why he's Vincent Tan's choice, and 2, if he's Vincent Tan's choice, why was he sacked?
Yeah,
he wasn't doing that bad on the field. You know, you can say what you want about his mannerisms and his attitude and his behaviour at press conferences and whatever, and there was arguments within the playing squad and maybe some players didn't like him or whatever. But like, on the pitch, the results weren't going like as bad as they have done at other points, and they've stuck with managers. So, and it was so out of the blue, wasn't it? Like, they just sacked him. Like, I'm not even sure if they might have sacked him off the back of a win as well, but that might be wrong.
I can't remember. My memory's not bloody good.
So, just first of all, I'm going to start with the trust put out a statement on April 28th, right, mate? So it says, dear member, prior to don't need to read the first, but it just says who's there. Mehmet Dalman, Ken Cho, Steve Borley, Wayne Nash, Philip Jenkins, Mark Denham met with the board, the members of the trust board and the fan advisory board. So basically, Mehmet Dalman, first of all, was asked if he considered this season to be a success. He stated that given the position we were in last season, coupled with the transfer embargo, the possibility of finishing in the top 10 was way beyond expectations. He thought that under the circumstances, the last 2 transfer windows have been far more successful than anticipated. So just on that bit, mate, I find that very encouraging from a point of view is that they're not completely fucking delusional in that they expected him to get to the top 6, but also they're not like just hoping that he just avoids relegation. It sounds like they were hoping for sort of mid-table, lower mid-table, and then
my initial reaction when I read it was like, well, why haven't we signed him up if he's exceeded expectations?
Well, I could tell you.
I know, obviously,
I could tell you 3 things about that straight away. So number 1, they approached him allegedly, just because I don't want to get sued, around Christmas time, and he wasn't interested because he wanted to see if he was backed in January, etc., and blah blah blah. And I think because he had this clause which has come out recently that if he finished in the top 6, he automatically got an extension, or top 6 or top 8, I think I read. So maybe from the manager's point of view, he thought, well, if they back me in January, I don't need to negotiate now because I can, I'll get it. If they give me the players I want, I'll get top 6 and top 8 if he, backs his own ability. So I can sort of understand that. But then he was very vocal in January, throughout January, about the lack of movement, the lack of funding, them not doing what they said, I think was a big issue. And he's been the most vocal manager we've had, certainly since I can't even think, but certainly he's just been the most vocal manager in terms of speaking out against the board or the owners in terms of like, they're not backing me. And I think that's fair.
There's a stat I brought up in the Flower Hour on Saturday, I think, that he's the first manager to go through a full season since 2018, 2019, when the last one was Warnock, who was in charge for a full season. Bonkers, isn't it?
Yeah. It's mental, mate. And the other thing, which I couldn't say with a bit of certain, I don't know. Yeah, I find it hard, mate, right? Because I don't like that kind of in the know culture. As you know, I hate it. So, and I don't want to come across as like, I know this and I know that and I've been told this. I hate it. So I do find it difficult to word what I'm trying to say. But I think the Kiefer Moore thing soured him a little bit, because I think he was led to believe that that was pretty much a done deal, because it was so close in the summer that, like, you're talking hours, and the reason it didn't happen in the summer, the loan deal, was because I can't remember who the player was, but basically there was like a bit of a merry-go-round. I think it was Millwall striker was going to go to Bournemouth, and then Kiefer Moore was going to come here, but that one fell through, which had a knock-on effect. But if you remember, I think I was texting you and Reese with like half hour to go saying, I think it's still going to happen. And it was only then sort of last minute that it didn't happen. And I think that soured him, because I think he assumed that because of that, in January, when the embargo was lifted, he would then be able to just get him in like first week or two of January, which, as we discussed in December, was never going to happen, because it's Cardiff City and we never seem to be proactive. We always seem to be very reactive. So I think that's the kind of the football side of it. I was lightly encouraged by the fact that it seems that they're, the expectations of what they expected from him and what he produced was probably about in line. Although it does sound as if the manager thought that with a couple more players that he wanted in January, he could have kicked on. And up until probably, I don't know, mate, what would you say? Start of April, we were well within reach of the playoffs if results had gone our way, but we just didn't have the personnel to do it. No. Like, he's done a whole season without a striker.
And you're looking at people that we've had out injured as well, like Ramsey, O'Dowda. Both of them missed the majority of the season. Like I said, if we'd had them two fit and one more or two more players that he wanted to bring in, then who knows? We might have finished in our top six. But I think it's been well broadcasted that players who did come in January, they weren't all his choices. So, if there's people behind the scenes making them decisions on behalf of the manager, it's something I don't really necessarily agree with. But perhaps that's what he's, we don't know what he's demanding in these things he's gone back to the club with. Perhaps he doesn't want people above being involved in, because didn't they recently, before the end of the season, have somebody like a head of scouting or something? Didn't he bring somebody in there?
Yeah,
sure he did.
Which again indicates that they probably thought he was staying, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because you don't bring in someone that late in the season, like a backroom member of staff, if you think he's going to go, or you think you're going to get rid of him, should I say?
And like, bonkers to think. I know obviously the season's finished now and there's a couple of months, but surely all the homework would have needed to have been done January onwards, really. Looking at
reactive,
the players
we're reactive, not proactive.
Who have gone out on loan to various other clubs and things. But
yeah, mate, we are so reactive and not proactive. Like I said, and I think I said it a few times, we should have had a list, because we all knew that his contract was up in June, right? So Cardiff City should have a list of 5 managers, at least a short list down to 5 managers, and it should have their personality profiles. They should have spoken to people who've worked under them before. What sort of style of football do they play? What wages do they need? What budget can they work on? And they should have a full workup of all, and they should have whittled that down to like 3 to 6 managers, say, so that the day the decision is finally made, whether he's staying or going, they can contact all of those people's agents and say, would you like to do an interview? But no, we'll wait until the day it's done, and then we'll go, right, so who should we employ? Same with transfers. We should already have a list of transfers, but we can't have a list of people we want to get in because we don't know who the manager is going to be. Reactive, not proactive. And the big, massive part of that is because we don't have a football structure between the managerial and the coaches and the board. Because if we had like a technical director and people working in that structure, they could be working on a list of players and things, and then you can kind of at least then be ready for when the manager comes in or this manager comes back in or whatever, so that you can hit the ground running. It's frustrating, mate. And a prime example, just going back to a comment made at the top, they sacked Steve Morrison, 7 days after they allowed him to spend £1.5 million on Callum Robinson. So, again, shows that sacking, like something happened. Something happened.
Yeah,
none of us know what. But then even when you look at the thing with what's his face, Simpson, who got sacked, like there was clearly something going on with him. Like, I know we didn't know straight because he was in the squad for a bit, but like there was clearly something going on, but it was never mentioned, nothing. And then all of a sudden it was like, bang, this has happened. And it's like, oh, fucking hell. And it's just, I don't know, mate. It's incredibly frustrating. But we move.
Just one thing before you go on. I just wanted to say, like all the players of the current squad now, then were still in contract and things, leaving now to go off on their jollies for the summer. There's got to be massive unrest for them as well. Probably not the right word to use, but uncertainty to what they're coming back to for pre-season. Like you know what it's like if you been in work and your manager's finishing, someone else is coming in. It is thing, isn't it? So it just baffles me. But I think, Rob, if whether the players know something we don't, perhaps you'd like to think they would have been told yay or nay before they.
But
finished.
Then if from what the last thing I heard was, so about a week before the season finished, I got told by quite a few people who would kind of have their finger on the pulse that it was pretty much done and they was just crossing the I's and crossing the T's. And then as it kind of got towards the last game of the season against Rotherham, that all went a bit quiet. And then it was like, something's not right. He's negotiating for certain things. And as it's turned out, it seems that the length of the contract is a massive issue. And he was trying to get better terms and stuff. But like now, it's like, let's say, I don't know, Ruben Colwell, right? Had a great season. Done probably as much as he could have done with the players around him, with no striker, with constantly being the one who's rotated and dropped and stuff like that. It's clear that if he hadn't fallen out with Robinson, or if Ramsey hadn't been injured, I don't think Ruben Colwell would have played as anywhere near as much as he did. No. But I think he's kind of must, and then he produced some good stuff. But I wouldn't be surprised if Bullet was to sell Ruben Colwell in the summer if he's the manager, or if Ruben Colwell was open to a move if Bullet was a manager, because I do think he was treated a bit shoddily this year, not massively, but just a little bit. And he might think that he can kick on elsewhere, and particularly if it's like a Premier League club. But then if, I don't know, like a more attacking manager came in, like a young attacking manager, say for instance, Oshan Roberts came in, right? Just as a hypothetical example. If Oshan Roberts comes in, I would imagine Ruben Colwell will be very, very excited because he's very, very familiar with him. And he would think, right, I'm not interested in going elsewhere. I'm hypothesizing, of course. I don't know what he's thinking, but I'm just like, using it as an example, Joe Rawls signed a new contract. Would he have still signed that contract if he thought Bullock wasn't going to be here? Yeah. You know, Nat Phillips, like if we're going to get him back on loan for a season, like, does he want to still come back to the club if Bullock's not in charge? There's so many things which cause an issue within it. We'll come back to the football side of things, mate. I would like to have a little chat about some of the financial stuff that people have been speculating about. So another thing in the trust sort of statement, I'm not going to read it all, but next paragraph, which I want to kind of highlight, Mehmet Dalman confirmed that contrary to rumours, at the moment, there are no discussions with any party in respect of the sale of the football club. He also reconfirmed once again that Vincent Tan has not changed his position and he will not sell the club to Sam Aman or any organisation that he may represent. So the reason that was asked is because on this same message board that we're going to discuss in a bit, there was a lot of kind of threads and stuff being said about that someone was trying to buy the football club and he wouldn't negotiate and blah, blah, blah. However, I don't know, like, where I stand with it. What I would say is it's clear from, if you look at this statement, which we're going to look at in a minute, from the financial audit, Vincent Tan, the amount of money that the club owes Vincent Tan now is a substantial amount of his family's overall wealth. Now, the only way, in my opinion, he gets that money back and comes out remotely close to even, let alone, you know, coming out with a bit of money, but like even, would be, one, if we were able to get to the Premier League and stay there for a season or two, which you obviously can't do without investment, or two, if we win that court case with Nantes and we get like whatever it was, 100 and something million or whatever it is. So like, what I don't understand is why this board and this owner haven't looked into selling a portion of the club. Use Jim Ratcliffe and what's the company called, which he owns, that chemical company? I can't remember the fucking called. But Ineos, who bought like a percentage of Manchester United to take over the football side of things, yeah? But that influx of money, so whilst the Glazers still own the football club, Ineos has paid like $1 billion or whatever it is in. So what I don't understand is why they haven't explored that sort of investment. So right, if he doesn't want to sell the whole thing, fine, because he wants to get his money back. And look, rightly so, by the way, regardless of what you think of him, and as you know, my opinion of him is not high. He's kept the club afloat and he's pumped it, like he's pumping it every month full of money to keep us within the financial fair play restrictions, to make sure people get paid, etc., etc. So he should, he should be looking to recoup that money. One, he wouldn't be a good businessman if he wasn't going to try and recoup that money. But also, he wouldn't be a human being, mate, if he wasn't looking to try and recoup some of that money. Yeah. Or most of that money. But I don't, and maybe they have, and it hasn't come to fruition, but I've never heard anything about them looking into that type of investment opportunity where you sell a portion of the club. Now, is that because Vincent Tan wouldn't be comfortable giving over a little bit of control to, like, say, for instance, the football side of things to someone? I don't know. I couldn't say. But it's kind of interesting to me that that's never come up. And that's kind of it. It is what it is.
You hit the nail on the head for me there. I think he seems a very controlling type of bloke, doesn't he? I don't think he'd like to give any share away.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's use another hypothetical, mate. Right? So, David Sullivan was linked with buying Cardiff for forever and a day, fucking hell, since I was a kid. Pretty much like when I was a teenager, I remember him like one day he's going to buy Cardiff and that. So let's just use him as a hypothetical, like, or his family or whatever as a hypothetical, and say they came in and they went like, we'll buy 30% of Cardiff City for big investment, but we want to run the football side of things. I just don't see Vincent Tan being open to that. Do you see what I mean? Like being like handing that much control of things. But then, would you have thought the Glazers would do it? Would you have thought some of these other owners who've done that similar sort of thing would have done it? Maybe not. I guess it's very interesting though, because I think that's probably I think that's the most effective or most realistic way that Cardiff could sustain a run to try and get in the Premier League, would be some big investment to sell a portion of the club and let someone take over the football side of things. We've already discussed tonight the lack of football structure is harming the football club. So if you look at what Ineos is doing, I don't want to use them as too much of an example, but like you look at the people they're bringing in off the field, like that will change the game. It might take 10 years, but for them, it will change the game for them. But if Cardiff had like a technical director and this and that, and had that structure in place, that long term is probably going to give us more chance of sustaining a run at getting to the Premier League, which in turn is going to be more chance of him getting his money back. So I don't know, mate. It's an interesting one though. But I mean, he got his fingers burnt with Ian Moody, didn't he? And I'm pretty sure, I'm not sure if it's been directly quoted, but I think it's been generally understood that we'll never have a director of football under Tan because he got his fingers burnt with Ian Moody.
Yeah.
Now,
I think Craig, going back and talking about finances and things, I think Craig put a comment in our WhatsApp group a bit earlier that we don't really develop players and sell them on for like 10 million plus, with the Jacks have done that, Hull have done that. We haven't, I know we've been renowned in the past for selling out better players, but we haven't really sold for big money, have we? In recent years, anyway.
Yes. Like, the big problem is, mate, I don't think that we look particularly attractive to potential investors or buyers.
Which is bonkers when you think, it's the capital city of Wales.
The facilities they've just built for the academy and the newish stadium, and being in the Premier League fairly recently. Like, there's all these different things in there, like where you look at it and you think, of course we're attractive. But like when you're being propped up by an owner, but not in the way like a Man City or someone or a Forest or whatever, where they're being propped up by, or like Newcastle, where they're being propped up in a way that means they can compete because they've got so much money that if they were able to, away from financial fair play, they'd be trying to sign fucking Mbappe and all these people because that's how much money they've got. We're being propped up in a way that like just so we can pay the bills and keep the lights on. And I think, these businessmen who are far more adept at investments and things like that than me or you, like they look at risk and reward and things like that. And I just don't know if we're a particularly, I don't know what the word, attractive investment, like, but then again, I think that can be flipped two ways in many aspects as well. So, right, I want to go to this thread, mate, which was put on Cardiff City Forum.co.uk yesterday. I think it was yesterday, Sunday, yeah. And it was posted by Granger and Star. I don't know him, so I have no idea like who he is, blah, blah, blah. It's anything which I say is not personal to anybody. It's just, I'm just going on what's on the thread, what's in the document, and also what, because remember what I said at the start of the show, everything which is in that document, Mehmet Delman said on Ace Podcast Nation at least once. I'm pretty sure he said it during the COVID time as well, but I'd have to go back and double check that. So basically, Granger and Star, who's basing this kind of thread or this post on the document, which he's also posted and he's highlighted. The post says, I'm not going to write an essay as I don't have the time and I don't want to bore you either, but we are in bad shape. 1, the current filed accounts directors' statements say that we are in a precarious position as a going concern. They say we are completely reliant on Vincent Tan. Exactly what Mem Dowman said on the channel.
That's what I was going to say. That's come out, and that's been common knowledge for the last few years, hasn't it? It's nothing new to me. That's not really.
And I mean, this is why I want people. Look, I'm not saying it's a good thing, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't be concerned about it or worried about it, and we should. We all want Cardiff City to thrive. We all want Cardiff City to survive. But this isn't new information. And again, not criticising Grange End Star, because I think the thread he's put on there, or the post he's put up, is pretty good. Like, he's based it on the document, and he's kind of put it into bullet points, which is easy to digest. He's not saying he's in the know, and he's not saying this and that. So it's, again, it's not a criticism. I'm just saying it's not new information. We've known this for forever and a day. Then he says, number 2, the auditor's report confirms that the above statement is true, which it has to be, as the directors will be personally liable if anything happens and they didn't disclose it. So again, that's why it's being disclosed, not just in the documents, in the director's statements. It was said on the podcast. I think it was said when he spoke to Paul Abandonato as well. So again, it's not new information, but I accept, it's in the document, and I accept when you read it, it's very, very worrying. Seeing it in writing in an official audit, it's worrying. Of course it is.
Yeah.
The other important thing is that Tan has not made a statement in the report to say that he will unequivocally continue to fund the club, which would allay the going concern risk statements by the directors and the auditor. If he is in the position and willing to do so, it would have been said to address the concern. So 2 things on that, I would say. Number 1, I don't think he really needs to say it at the moment, because realistically, if he stops funding the club, he loses all that money. He's not going to get it. Doesn't benefit him.
No.
And a bit about his family and wanting him to get out and stuff in a minute, which we'll kind of go on to. So it doesn't make sense for him to bail out at the moment, because he would just lose it all. But also, he's never been one to particularly communicate, which is something that we've said a few times, isn't it? Could he, but then I do agree with what he said. He said if he did address it and did say, look, I'm going to keep funding the club for the time being until we are either in a position on the field where I can, recoup some of that money, which I'm owed, or I'm going to look for investment by selling part of the club, or all the different things they could say. He could address the concern. I accept that completely. He could address it. He could put our minds at rest to a certain degree. I'll come to the comment. I'll come back to the comments, guys, in a minute. Just give me a sec. Just want to kind of just flow through this quickly, this post. So he says, so it is that bad. We won't go into administration, as Vincent Tan won't allow that, which is basically what I just said, isn't it? He's not going to just stop funding the club because it doesn't benefit him.
No.
And I'm grateful for that and his ongoing funding. But we should not be in this position, nor should he. But our present situation is said as precarious and is a serious risk to us as a going concern. Again, I would say it is 100%. It's worrying, and it's not and I think one of the biggest worries for me, like I said, there's a bit about his family wanting him to kind of ditch and run at this point. The thing which worried me is and look, I know I wouldn't wish this on anyone, and I don't wish it on him, but should he fall ill or something happen, and he was to pass away or something like that, something which is completely unexpected and unavoidable, then I think the club would be in shit creek big time, more than they are now, because it does sound like his family want him to just bin us off, cut his losses. So,
but I know he's tied up in other clubs as well, though, isn't he? So
I think to a lesser extent, though, isn't it? Like,
yeah.
So he continues. If Tan is behaving if Tan continues in behaving the same way, the debt and the liabilities will keep growing. Firefighting, the big black hole gets deeper, more difficult to climb out of. Lead boots whilst treading water, hoping that luck will save the day. Something simply has to give. That I agree with. I think we cannot allow it as a football club, a community, everyone involved, from the fans to the boards to the owner, everyone should be concerned by this. But again, I would say it's not new news. It's what we've known for a while. It's what Mehmet Dalman said to me. It's what he said to Paul Abbandonato. Nothing has changed particularly. However, I 100% agree that something is going to give. Like, something at some point, something's got to give. Like, whether his family take over his business or whether he runs out of money, like, something's got to give. And that's why I think now that he should be looking for investment. If he doesn't want to sell, I can't remember the wording, that the statement, if you remember, about 18 months ago when the Glazers said they were going to sell or look for investment. Like, that's the sort of statement I'd like to see from Vincent Tan now, saying that he's committed to keeping
as long as he keeps the majority sharehold, then, at the end of the day, then he's got most of the say of me. So
I mean, in my opinion, mate, what I would like to see from him is I'd like to see a statement go up saying, I'm committed to the football club and I will keep funding the football club and I will keep Cardiff City afloat, and people don't have to worry about their jobs and the club doesn't have to worry about going under and the fans don't need to worry about that side of it. But I'm also going to look into investment opportunities and potentially selling shares and blah, 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 whatever it may be, to try and ease that black hole and ease the anxiety and the precarious nature of what we're in. So he continues then, the club owes Vincent Tan a quarter of his family business's net worth. They are wealthy, but they're not oligarchs. So this is significant. This is hurting. His family have told him they want no part in the football business. They and they want to sell, which we, of course, all know. It's not just if, it's when. I've no doubt that his family and that want to sell him, sell the club. I've no doubt they want him to cut ties. I think, and this is only my opinion, not anything else, I think that there's a part of Vincent Tan that wants to succeed with Cardiff City, that wants to get him to the Premier League and have him stay there for a couple of years and then sell the club so he can walk away with his kind of held high, if you like, and go, look what I did. I kept us afloat. I got us to the Premier League, and now I'm going to walk away with my money. I believe that. I don't think he just wants to sell just to try and recoup his money. I think there's a bit of ego in there as well, that he wants to succeed. Will it happen? I think it remains to be seen.
I don't think it's not going to happen if we keep chopping and changing bloody managers, is it? Because we're just going back to square one. As a fan, I'm more concerned about that scenario than I am about the financial situation, if I'm completely honest.
Yeah, and I think we'll come back to the football side of it, and I'm going to go into some of the comments and stuff now. I just want to finish off the last bit of this post. But I guess the point being, you spot on, mate, is that one of the issues with not having a football structure and not having football people advising him about the football is that if his closest advisors were Mehmet Dalman and someone who really, 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 really knows football inside and out, between the two of them, like Mehmet Dalman could be advising him on business and helping him with that side of the football business. Vincent Tan's obviously a businessman himself. And then if you had someone high up who was football, like able to advise him on the football side of things, you then could tell him that chopping and changing managers is not the right way to go. You need to have stability. We need to have a football structure. We need to have a technical director, and these people, we need to be for the sake of repeating myself, we need to be proactive, not reactive, when we're looking at transfers, replacing managers, coaches, scouts, analysts. How many times this year, mate, when I've done those previews and I've said this is an area which Cardiff really need to be concerned with. They need to watch this player or they need to do this. And then the fucking 24 hours later, that player scores and gets a couple of assists. And you're like, Jesus Christ, if fucking short-ass little Simon in his house, in his home little studio can see it, why can't, and not just me, like other, all the fans, why can Cardiff City's analysts, Cardiff City's coaches, Cardiff City's club, why can't they not see it? And if they did see it and they didn't get, if they did see it and they didn't come up with a plan, then why haven't we got people who are good enough to come up with a plan to do it? But that's the football side of it. We'll get back to that now. So then the question becomes, he wants his money back, and the only way to do that is sustainable Premier League status. This would take years and require a budget. This then grows the debt, makes our position more precarious, and as an ongoing concern. It also affects us with financial fair play, for which we've seen this year. Does he spend more of his family's money to fund us, or does he tap the loan market who will want increasing interest rates, and probably both? Which takes me back to what I was saying about investment, mate. I think if you can sell a percentage of the football club for a decent price on potential, it seems like a no-brainer. It's Williams, but yeah, just put something in just a bit earlier. Let me just bring it up. He says, if Tam wants to sell the club as a marketable asset, he's going the wrong way about it. And I 100% agree with that. Offering 12-month contracts to managers doesn't make us a attractive proposition for managers, for footballers, etc. But also, it doesn't make us attractive to investors, because it always seems like there's no plan. And I say it again, we're reactive, not proactive. And I think football people understand that. But people who invest in football clubs, they understand that as well. So we're not attractive because of the things that are going on the football side of things. Right, last bit, mate, and then I'll let you get dig some deep into this now. If he continues, he will get precisely. If he continues as he is, he'll get precisely the same results. The hole will get deeper, and something's got to give one way or the other. And then he finishes it by saying, "So the questions are: how long will Tan continue to fund us? How long can Tan continue to fund us? And what is Tan's plan?" So you tell me, mate, what you like. Tell me what you think about generally all that information. I know I stopped and started, and it was a lot of me speaking, but tell me what you think about all the information within it, and tell me what you think maybe the solution could be, and then also tell me what you think his plan is.
Yeah, like I said, I've never really thought about having investors come in. Really, like I said, I've not really one for finances and looking at that, but seems a bit of a no-brainer, doesn't it? But like you said then in the comment that was just up on the screen, it's not filling it with confidence that we're going to be attracting the right people. And I think Reese put a comment in there then about potential owners coming in and them not being right for the club. And is it just going to make things even worse then? So yeah, that's my worry. Never thought about the situation you said, if he fell ill or the worst was to happen. And his family have obviously well documented that they don't want him running it anymore. And like you said, they pretty much burn bridges type of thing. So that's a worrying thing as well. So it'd be good just to have some clarity.
Yeah.
No, but it'd be nice for him just to have a bit of just come out and give a statement of what his what his goals are then for the next 3, 4, 5 years. Then is he looking to get back in the Premier League, and then he's looking to sell us on? Whether something like that would be publicised, I doubt very much. But from a fan's point of view, it'd be nice to hear that, you know, in the next 3, 4, 5 years, he's going to be looking to sell everything on. Like, I don't know.
Look, I would love Vincent Tan to leave Cardiff City. I've made no secret of that. I'm not a fan. But you also have to respect the fact that there probably wouldn't be a Cardiff City if it wasn't for him at the moment. Because he is paying the bills, keeping the lights on, whatever you want to say. I agree with what Reese has just said there. He said, I genuinely think he goes and he's going to go once the Salah case is done, and he'll probably sell up. Reese also says he'll probably sell to Dalman. We know he wants to own a club, as he tried buying Charlton. Yeah, there's more to that. But so with the, do you know what's interesting to me, and people will hate on me for this, I guarantee you, is if Vincent Tan sold Cardiff City to Mehmet Dalman, I don't think that's the worst thing that can happen. Because I think if Mehmet Dalman had the final say on what's going on at the football club, I think you would see very, very different structure, decisions, and whole way of going about things. Like, I'll take you back to his comments on Bullet this season, and he stated, given the position we were in last season, coupled with the transfer embargo, the possibility of finishing in the top 10 was beyond expectations. And we thought at that end of the circumstances, the last 2 windows have been relatively successful, or more successful than anticipated. So just from conversations that I've had with him, I think the decision making would be very different. He indicated in the interviews on air to us that, like, he doesn't have the final say on things. He can give advice and he can say, I think we should go this way, but Vincent Tan will do what Vincent Tan wants to do. Is that me saying I want Mehmet Dalman to be the owner of Cardiff City? No, it's not. What I'm saying is I think he would make better football decisions, because I think he would put football people in place. I believe, and it's only my opinion, that if Mehmet Dalman was the owner now, we would have a technical director and a director of football, and we'd have that structure. I believe. Am I wrong? Maybe. But I look, genuinely, 2 things could be right, as I said earlier. I want Vincent Tan to be gone, but I also
good comment to pull up there then from Sloper Road Blues, but that was agreeing with you.
He says, if Vincent Tan sold us to Dalman, I'd be happy. He knows the club and knows what the fans want. He genuinely wants the best for the football club, but is held back in anything he does by Vincent Tan. Mate. Look, and as I said right at the start, like, Mehmet Dalman, he knows how to answer questions. He's very good at kind of the PR and all this sort of stuff, and he knows how to navigate questions and not give like a non-answer if he needs to. Of course he does. He's a very experienced businessman who's dealt with PR for years. But equally, I think people would be surprised by the decisions that he makes or would make in that situation. Because I think sometimes he is the face of the bad decisions, but it's not him making those bad decisions. He's just the one that speaks to the media and to whatever, you know? Does that make sense? I think it makes sense. But look, at the end of the day, like, I understand Vincent Tan wants his money back. He wants to, and as I said, I think there's a bit of ego in there. So I think he'd prefer to get us to the Premier League, sustain it for a year or 2, and then sell us, get his money back, and say, look what I did. But I also agree with what Reece said, in that, really, if they get the rumoured figures from Nantes and that, which I don't necessarily think they will, but I've got someone coming on to speak about that as well, actually. But if that was to come about and he got like a big whack of money, like 100 million or whatever it was rumored to be, I could see him walking away then as well and just be going. The worst mistake Vincent Tan made, apart from the rebrand, was getting rid of what's his name? Was it Dato Chan? I forget his name. Tanji. What was his name? Someone tell me in the comments now. I apologize, I can't remember his name, but I'm sure people know who I'm referring to. He came in initially, Dato Chan, I think his name was. But he was so hands-on with the fans. Tanji, that's it. And he was very hands-on with the fans. He loved the football club. And I think that was the worst mistake. That was when things started to go tits up. And I think, let's go back to the football side of things to finish, because we're not financial experts, but I did want to discuss it because the reason I wanted to discuss it, mate, is two reasons. Number one, we're a Cardiff channel and we discuss things and we'll give our opinions. We'll ask for opinions in the comments. We don't shy away from the fact that some of us have got different opinions to the others. And as long as you're not a knob about it, not a problem whatsoever. I want.
Is that why you had me on tonight? Is that why you had me on and not Rob? Is it?
Well, Rob is too argumentative and he's like a financial expert as well. He'd have embarrassed me, so I needed you to just go along with everything I say because you don't understand the finances. No, I'm joking, of course. Like the point being is like I wanted to discuss it, but also I felt quite strongly because I saw a lot of anxiety and a lot of worried City fans on social media about it, and I get it. And this is not, it's not anything like Grange End Star, who's done that post, has done nothing wrong. He's got the document and he's based his post on the document. And he hasn't been really hyperbolic about it. He hasn't been like, he's not like massive, like, oh, 10 out. Oh, he's not like the opposite. He hasn't given like a load of opinions and framed it as something else. Like, I got a lot of respect for the way he's done that post because a lot of people wouldn't have done it like that. And he based it, he's done it completely on facts and just shown the document. And I've got a lot of respect for that. And I think, so the reason I wanted to discuss it is because it's not new news. And I saw a lot of people very anxious about it. I can't even remember when the last time Mehmet Dama was on the channel. I think it was about a year ago, maybe 18 months. And he said, a lot of that stuff in it. So it isn't new news, but I understand that it's also very upsetting for Cardiff City fans. It's not good news either, by the way. And also, look, it is. And as we've
digging into the archives and getting it back out just to say it was.
Yeah, I might post some clips on. Actually, that's a good idea, mate. Post some clips later in the week and stuff. But on the football side of things, I think if I was advising Vincent Tan, right? He's never going to ask me, but let's be honest. Let's just say, right, there was like a fans Q&A, right, which Vincent Tan did. Or let's say that Mehmet Dalman sorted it out. So Vincent Tan came on the podcast and Vincent Tan said to me, from a purely football point of view, what would you do now to try and maximize the financial potential of the football club? So that means try and get us as high up the pyramid as possible, to try and make us as attractive as possible to potential investors or buyers. The first thing I'd say is you ain't going to get to the Premier League unless you invest in the football team. And I don't necessarily mean go and spunk 100 million up the wall on whoever. I mean, put things in place to take the football team and the football club forward and stabilize things. We got a really good academy and academy players coming along. So let's build on that. And the first thing I'd say is you have to have managers. If you want a manager to build something, whoever the manager is, you have to have a manager there for 2 to 3 seasons at least. Otherwise, you're just constantly revolving. Because if a new manager comes in now, is Siopis and Gutas going to want to go? Are they going to want to go to wherever Bullock goes? Is, I don't know, Halworth going to want to stay because like he signed in January, or whoever it may be, right? And then the new manager might come in and he might think, well, Ruben Corwell's not good enough. Halworth's not good enough. Whoever, whatever. He might think Siopis is rubbish, and he say, oh, Ryan Wintle is like the second coming of Steven Gerrard, so he's going to be my skipper next year, and Atete is my number 9 for the next 10 years. Anyway, like the new manager might completely rip up everything and sell everyone, and then 12 months later, he doesn't get in the top 6, so he doesn't get his contract renewed. That's not attractive to players, to managers, to the fans, to investors, to potential buyers, to anyone. It's not helping anybody. You have to have some level of stability. And the thing which I was really hopeful for about this season with Bullock, I accept all the criticisms of him and the style of play and things towards the end of the season. I understand all of those worries. Is what he did give us is he gave us stability. And if you could build that now for another 2 seasons by giving him the players he wants as much as you can, because obviously we're in financial dire straits, but we've shown that we can do a bit of wheeling and dealing. And I think some of the wheeling and dealing we've done in the last 12 months has been pretty good. Nat Phillips, pretty good. Carlin Grant, pretty good.
Great.
Free transfers, pretty all right. I think Mate will come good next year.
Going back to a question I can't remember who posted earlier. It might have been Paul, I'm not sure. And they mentioned about we sold another youngster to Man City. I think it was about a comment that I said that we don't really sell players for big money. Because didn't we sell a player to Man United at the start of the season?
Yeah. So we sold Gabriel Biancheri, who's got dual Italian-Welsh citizenship. He's playing for Manchester United's under-18s, who lost 2 games this season, won the Premier League and the Cup, and excelling, playing regularly for him, doing very well. Unfortunately, because of his age, Cardiff didn't have... So if a player's at, I think, like 16, 17, they don't have a lot of choice when those clubs come in. They just have to pay them like a compensation figure. So it's different to selling, like if we sold, say, Joel Colwell now in the summer, or obviously Ruben's different, but like if you sold Joel Colwell or someone like that, like it's different because you demand a proper fee for them. Whereas at a 16-year-old, you get a compensatory fee and that's it.
So there'd be no like add-ons and things like that for them then if they went and progressed further on in their career.
There might be some, but they wouldn't be as substantial as like what it would be if you sold an 18-year-old. I just want to quickly do this question. Can you left quick click says, do you think Derby will sign Ebo Adams? Yes, I do. I think that deal is probably already 80, 90% done. But do you know what could throw a spanner in the works of that, mate? New manager.
Yeah.
And then how does Ebo Adams feel? Because from what Edge was saying, and he's spoken to him a lot, he's really happy. His family's happy. He's got a newborn baby. They're all really happy in Derby. He's playing some great, he's playing football. They think they should build the side around him. And then if a new manager comes in and puts his kibosh on that move because he wants to have a look at him or he wants to keep him even, like there's nothing that you can do with that, like because he's under contract. So I do think he'll go, but that could be something, couldn't it? I think also, like Paul said, you've got to stop big clubs poaching our youngsters. Yeah. You do, but the problem is in like when you got a player like Gabriel Biancheri and some others before, is if they're that highly rated at that young age, there's not a great deal you can do to stop these kids going. Like you can try and convince them that the better route is to go through this City academy, play in the first team, and then get sold. But realistically, do you think? Right. So here's a question, mate. Do you think say Gabriel, let's use Gabriel Biancheri as an example, right? He's gone into the 18s, won trophies at the end of 18s with United, right? And look at their injuries this year. If he goes into their 23s next year or plays a few games for their 23s next year and he's banging in the goals and they have similar sort of injury problems and they haven't got a striker and they're down to the absolute bare bones and they call him up like they did to Rashford 10 years ago or whenever it was, and he comes in and he scores a couple of goals in the first team, takes his opportunity, do you think that is a faster route to playing for a club of the size of United's, or is it better to go through the Cardiff Academy, play a season or two in the first team at 18, 19, get signed by, I don't know, who could we say? Like a Bournemouth or someone like that.
Use Rambo as an example,
and
he come through
the academy. But I think times have changed since Ramsey as well. Like, you know, I think times have changed. And I think the big sort of top 6, top 8, they take you less like you don't see teams in that top 8 signing many players from championship teams. Like Daniel James went to United and it didn't work out. And for that reason, I don't think they would look at a championship player again because they will think that the jump was too big. Not just them, other teams as well. So if you're if you're an agent of one of these like superstar lads who is 16, 17, and a Man City or a Man United or an Arsenal or whoever come in for you and they offer you the chance to go, you know, come move up or buy your parents a house, etc. Can you, like the agent is probably going to, I think it's more realistic to break into the first team these days by going through the academy at the big club, whereas maybe 15 years ago, it was probably better to stay at Cardiff or stay at your championship club, break into the first team, and then get signed by someone once you've played a bit of first team football. But then there's obviously there's always outliers to the examples. Jude Bellingham is obviously a big example of that. Went from Birmingham to Dortmund to Madrid, but he is also, I think, very much an outlier. Generally speaking, I think the quicker route.
That was a bonkers story I read today that his parents,
split up so that they could both.
One was to, his mother went with Jude and travelled the world, and the other one,
But that's mate, and like, you know, we're parents, mate, and at the end of the day, like, you will sacrifice anything for your kids, and they sacrificed like their marriage pretty much. And you know, the amount of money they've got, I'm sure they able to like fly over and this and that, but day to day they sacrifice their marriage to enable both their kids to chase their dreams, but also help them. And I'm sure that's a big reason why Jude Bellingham has got his head so screwed on, is because his parents are so hands-on with him and his brother, guiding them and this, that, and the other. I want to go quickly to some of the comments. Paul says, like my point, Rabi Matondo was on City's books a few years back. We sold him to Man City and they sell him for 30 million. It's money we miss out on. Yeah, but I agree with you, first and foremost. Like, there's many examples of these types of players who are on Cardiff's books at some level, or that they come from Cardiff and we don't even sign them, Gareth Bale. So, but the thing with like Rabi Matondo is, would he have been worth 30 million when he was sold? If he was with Cardiff, he probably isn't, is he? You know what I mean? Like, but then he's worth 30 million because he's at City. And then he's gone on loan and done well. That's why he's worth 30 million. Right. I'm going to whip through some comments, mate, and then I'll let you go. If you need to go, mate, you go, and I'll crack on. A lot of talking this evening.
Yeah. That's all right. My wife's probably downstairs with a dagger waiting
now. My wife was in the comments, but I think she got bored. She doesn't like listening to me speak, see. It's Williams 98 123 says, problem is Tan is too involved. He needs to put a footballing director in place, put footballing people on the board. Tan needs to sit back and let him go on with it. Yeah, mate, you're preaching to the choir on that one. But going back to what I said, the way to make us more attractive to players, managers, investors, potential buyers is to be sound, is to build the football team. It's like that's the only way you can do it. And the manager thing is a big problem for us. A big problem for us. Sloper Road Blue said that they need to sort out the bullet thing ASAP. Fan base is very toxic at the moment. It is, but I think some of that there's two sides to that. I think, mate, isn't there? Like one is there's the anxiety and the not knowing what's going on for next season, and then the other side of it is the type of football we've seen since Christmas left a lot of people frustrated. And like we've had a discussion to death, mate, on Bullet and the style of football, isn't it? But I think that is a big part of it. But I think even the ones who are not sure about Bullet, or even the ones who don't want him, if they would just announce it and get it sorted, they'd kind of get behind him and move on, wouldn't they? Like, I don't think there's many City fans who want Bullet out so much that they wouldn't support the team, or they would boo, like they'd be going, if he's got a 3-year deal and they'd be turning against them from day one, they give him a chance to do what people think he can do. I don't know, mate. What do you think? Like, do you think Bullet stays now, or do you think it's probably more likely he goes?
Me personally, in my opinion, I want him to stay. But I think the longer it kind of drags out, I think it's gonna. God knows where we'll be back to there next year. But if I'm completely honest with you, I just think the longer it drags on, the more unlikely it is he's going to agree to anything. And I just think the longer you leave it, is that giving other clubs opportunities to speak with him as well?
Yeah.
Because obviously he's not. I think his contract officially runs out on the 4th of June. So, at the end of the day, unless we get it sorted in the next couple of weeks, then we give other clubs the opportunity as well. And
it also is. Sorry to interrupt you, mate. I was just going to say, not just that, it's also giving opportunity to other clubs to speak to Nat Phillips, to Carlin Grant, if we wanted to get him back, to get in Perrier and Jeezy and try and tempt him into a move if he wasn't sure. All of these players, like it's never ending. Reese said it took us a long time to get shot of long ball players. What if the new manager is a long ball manager and we have to start again? 5 months later, he gets sacked and the new manager wants to play possession again. And this is the problem. Reactive, not proactive. I think I might get a T-shirt with that on, Talking of T-shirts, mate, why don't you talk us through the T-shirt you got on at the moment? Because
it's not officially a Flower Hour thing. It's Podcast Nation. I can't believe I forgot to bring yours on Friday.
Dickhead,
never mind.
But then Violent Money, they don't sponsor Cardiff City World, so I shouldn't have. They sponsor Age Podcast Nation, so I shouldn't have worn it. It's a bit naughty. Free advertising for them. They got some. Yeah, check out AJM. I don't think I've got it in the description for this show, but if you go on any of the Flower Hour shows the last couple of weeks, there's all their details and stuff on there. Obviously helps us a lot if you support the sponsors. There is a thing for the footballcentral.com, central with double L. If you'd like to get yourself some retro football shirts, including Welsh retro football shirts, you can get 60% off at the moment because you can use the code ACE and use the 50% sale they got. So it works out like 20 quid for they got retro Wales shirts. You might have to message them about the Wales shirts because I don't think they've gone up on the website yet. But they've got all sorts of clubs, like Italian clubs, Boca Juniors, all the like 80s, like wicked retro shirts, I've got to say. There you are. Wes Burns, now a Premier League player with Ipswich, released from our academy.
I'm going to jump out, right?
Yeah, mate. Yeah, no worries. I'll speak to you later. I'm going to wrap up now anyway, mate. So I'll speak to you in a bit. But cheers, mate.
Happy days. Cheers, buddy.
Big up to Matthew. What a legend. Appreciate him coming on. Wes Burns, now a Premier League player with Ipswich, released from our academy. Tom Lockyer, Luton captain, released from our academy, to name two. Oh, it's never ended. Jonathan says what I said earlier. Tan feels he got burnt by Moody, so he won't go down that route again. Well, So, Jonathan, the reason I brought it up again after, because I said the same as what you've just said there earlier on, but the reason I kind of brought it up was if Vincent Tan ever wants to sell Cardiff City, if he wants to attract investors, if he wants us to get to the Premier League and stabilise so that he's able to get his money back, whatever it may be, he has to do certain things to make us attractive and make us capable of doing those things. And at the moment, he's not getting the right football advice, because anyone who knows football can tell him that offering 12-month contracts and just moving. I thought I had my address on then. Anyone who knows football knows that having a 12-month contract, revolving doors of managers is not gonna make us attractive to players, managers, etc. Last couple of questions. If anyone's got any questions, get them in now, quick. Paul says Bullet has left. We'll get the news on the 3rd or 4th of June when his contract's up. Yeah, I think that's probably the most likely outcome now. I don't think it's nailed on, but I think it's once he went back to Turkey with no announcement, I thought the writing was on the wall, if I'm honest. The interest, well, not even interesting, but like when you look at it from his point of view, like he wants to move his family over and stuff, and you know, schools and things like that. Like it all comes into it. And not having that job security or contractual security is understandable that he wants to do it. Jonathan says, Tan's stubborn. He believes he knows football. Even Dalman mocked him. Yeah. I don't know if you were in, Jonathan, earlier. I'm sure someone will end up clipping it up and giving me shit and twisting it into something it wasn't by saying that I said that Mehmet Dalman should be the owner of Cardiff. What I said was, I think people would be surprised is if we win the court case, and someone suggested in the comments that Vincent Tan will sell the club to Mehmet Dalman. And I said, you'll be surprised with the decisions that Mehmet Dalman would make almost immediately if he took over the football club. And I believe that a football structure with a technical director and a director of football, and that structure, which we're clearly lacking, would be in place very quickly under him, because he is the face of everything. So he takes the grief and he does the interviews and he does the fan things and all the rest of it. But ultimately, they're not his decisions, and I don't believe that he agrees with all of them. Hence why he's trying so hard to fight to keep Bullet, because you can tell by the statement he made through the trust that he thinks that Bullet did a very good job this season, considering everything which went into it or went against us. Guys, it's been a massive pleasure chatting with you. Big thanks to Matthew for joining us. We have a longer one today, but it's been good. Enjoyed it. As I said at the start of the show, not a financial expert, but did our best to have a good chat about it and kind of trying to understand it all. I am getting at least one financial football expert on in the coming weeks, hopefully 2 different ones. Also, if anyone has got a contact for Keith from the Supporters Trust, I'd be very grateful if you could pass that on to me, Keith Morgan from the Trust. If anyone could put me in contact with him, I'd be very grateful. He's not someone who I've come across, or someone that I know. Tuesday, tomorrow night, we've got a new episode with Terry Phillips of the history of Cardiff City, and it's called The Confessions of a Regional Football Journalist. And I started editing it today. It is a flipping belter. Think it might be the best one yet. It's really, really good. Wednesday, 9:15, the Flower Hour Quiz Night, featuring special guest, ex-Cardiff City player to be announced. What else will we have later this week? We'll have all sorts. Also, been speaking to some people about the potential for doing a call-in show, like a physical call-in show where people can phone in, have their say and stuff like that. Would you guys be interested in that? Would you be up for that? Something which I'm working on. Indeed. Yeah, it's going to be fun on Thursday for Roger Giggs on football because Man United lost again, although they were marginally better. But it's always fun to wind him up. He gets very upset and tries to deflect by moaning about Cardiff. Doing some good interviews with Rodri actually coming in the next couple of weeks, including a former Cardiff City player. But it's going to be fun. We'll be back. We're back every single day, 7 days a week, baby. Cardiff City all the way. Be good. And if you can't be good, enjoy yourself. Big up.